Many people ask, where do we go when we die? That just seems to be the age old question throughout all cultures and all times. So that's a topic that we're going to discuss today. So stay tuned. Welcome to the Spirits Beside Us podcast. I'm your host, Chris Lippincott. I'm an ex-Wall Street analyst turned international medium, spiritual teacher, and best-selling author. Each week we'll dive into the fascinating and uplifting arena of the non-physical world to help you deepen your understanding and spiritual connection to the unseen realm. We'll also share a behind-the-scenes look with others who've done the same and speak with experts in the field about their experiences. Pull up a seat and let's dive into these perspective-changing conversations. Welcome to another episode of Spirits Beside Us. I'm so glad you joined us. One of the questions that I seem to get all the time is, where do we go when we die? Perhaps the best descriptions of what happens to us after we transition seem to be coming through automatic writings that we've had over the last 150 years. And there have been hundreds of them that detail exactly what happened. And it's incredible the consistency and the detail, and the people who come through are so undeniably great character witnesses that you're just absolutely astonished at what's actually happening. And it really seems that Spirit's trying to come through to give us these spiritual truths. And you feel that there's this desire to bring upon us an understanding of what is really going on beyond our physical life here on Earth. And it feels like they're trying to help us become much more aware of what's beyond the veil at this point, what we should expect. And at first glance, when you begin to look at all the information that's coming through on these automatic writings, you begin to think, that's just too good to be true. That's just a little bit fancy. That's a little bit too much. I don't know if I can really accept that. That's something that really, I'm not quite sure if I want to believe that. The thing is that there's so much information and it's so consistent that we can't ignore it anymore. Just the sheer volumes of these writings, let alone the numerous authors who have been coming through over the years, and the perfect consistency with all of the information that all of these people have been writing about on a consistent basis for hundreds of years, as well as the fact that the evidence is consistent. It's corroborated by all the different authors and the character witnesses of these people, as well as the recipients, the mediums who are writing this down, seem to be unreproached. People that have been known, both the mediums and the communicators, to be the most honorable, trustworthy people that you would never imagine could say anything other than the truth. So they're seen as incredible character witnesses. And many of the spirit communicators that have been coming through, especially in my readings, are talking about both where they are, how they are, what they're like, what's going on in their life. So they're saying the same thing as these communicators that were coming through in automatic writings. For example, I'll have a child who's showing himself hopping and skipping and jumping and pointing to his legs as if he's demonstrating, hey, listen, I can hop and skip and jump. And sure enough, the parents confirmed that he was in a wheelchair and there's no way he could have hopped, skip, or jumped, but he's now out of that wheelchair and he's letting you know that, hey, I am absolutely here. There'll be people who come through. I can remember one wife, for example, who was describing where she was. She was in this beautiful, luscious green field that was surrounded by beautiful green grass and trees and shrubs everywhere. It was bright light in every direction you could look at. And that was what was so amazing, is that while we here in the physical and on Earth, we see a sun that's at a fixated point, But in this image she was showing us, and this is also coming through in all of the different automatic writings, there is no fixed sun. It's just light that is coming from every direction, and every bush and shrub and everything that exists, it's all giving light from every possible direction. Also, there is, I can remember, a husband who was showing himself to be calmly floating down this beautiful stream where he was totally overworked. And sure enough, the wife was confirming that he was so stressed out, so overworked, that he didn't have a moment in his life to be relaxing or taking time off. And this was his almost quote unquote permanent vacation, and that he finally was getting that vacation that he so longingly wanted to have but couldn't, because he was working so hard. And there was this great one I can remember. For example, I was giving a reading to a couple of daughters. Their father came through, and the father was painting this beautiful picture of an ornate Italian villa, complete with the beautiful tiles on the floor, the ornate carved bed in the room for rest. You'd go outside and you'd see this wonderful outdoor shelter, like an area that you would rest, very much like a porch. With the tiles on the outside, you'd see the spiraling carved pillars that would be holding up the little roof. Beyond that, you'd see the olive trees and the different trees beyond that. And he went into such incredible details. He slowly panned around and showed me everywhere he was. And as I was describing this, as he was giving me this beautiful remote viewing, the daughters absolutely burst into tears, saying, "Oh my gosh, that is my dad's Italian villa that he absolutely loved and he cherished." So he was showing his daughters that he was now in that Italian villa, and that he had recreated it in the spirit world. And they keep on going and showing us all of these favorite places, and it's absolutely amazing. And all these common themes that keep coming through. At one point, I'll oftentimes get a feeling of new breath of fresh air that comes through, very much like when you are down underwater, you're running out of breath, and all of a sudden you come back up to the surface and you go, oh, and you have this new breath of life. And that's the feeling of just an incredible, like new life, new breath, you can breathe again. It's like being underwater holding the breath, but you're finally getting released. And it's this sensation of exuberance and new sensation where you get to reconnect with everything that's around. And many times that comes through where not only is it a sensation of new breath, but it's also a reflection of the communicator showing them that they, in fact, can breathe again. Oftentimes, what they are showing is that they also had a problem breathing, and that's confirmed by the sitters. They'll say, absolutely, oh my gosh, he passed of COVID or lung cancer or some lung disease, and sure enough, all of a sudden they can breathe again, and it's just a beautiful sensation that they can breathe, and it's all new. Also, I'll frequently get the sensation of just overabundance of joy, energy, exuberance that comes through, of like, oh, it's so wonderful, and it's this sense of just igniting this flame of excitement and energy, and oftentimes it feels like this incredible bundle of youth, a bundle of energy. I'm like, oh, this is incredible to come through me. Other times there are feelings of just beautiful calm, beautiful peace, wonderful sensation of just love. It's almost like this feeling of, if you remember back in the day, the commercial, Calgon, take me away, just a soothing, calming, peaceful feeling. And that's what overcomes me. That's what they give me, and that's what I pass on to the recipient, and they're like, oh, that feels absolutely beautiful. And they're trying to express that to their loved one here, and it's a beautiful sensation. Many times, they're also making me feel that they're so happy that they have just gotten rid of or discarded their old useless bodies. It's very much like you take an old pair of clothes that you can't use anymore and you just dump them in the wastebasket, or you take off the trench coat, you throw it aside because they don't need it anymore and they're so happy to be done with it. And they just let it go and it's useless. They're like, I don't need that thing anymore. And sure enough, that's the feeling they're giving us, and it's an absolutely incredible feeling. And what's also so unique is that the transition for each person that comes through, and this is true in both all of the automatic writings as well as the feelings that spirit will give me, the transition is different for each person. It's based on their expectations, it's based on their spiritual awareness, and it's based on their vibration by the time that they have transitioned. Perhaps they have accumulated a lot of negativity, a lot of doubt, a lot of maybe sadness, maybe a lot of frustration. All that vibration will be reflected upon where they are. Or conversely, if they've just had this incredible spiritual awakening or spiritual awareness or spiritual connectivity before they transition, that too will get reflected. And that will be part of their transition. Most people, when they arrive in the afterlife, it's a very smooth, almost imperceptible transition. It's something where people oftentimes feel that they can't even tell it's happening because it's more of an evolution than it is a revolution. It's nothing like a shock, unless, of course, there is some kind of unforeseen transition where maybe they had a traumatic passing and something sudden happened. But usually it's an evolution where they're here in one moment and the next thing they know they blink an eye and they're still in their quote unquote here, and they look back on their body and like, wait a second, how can this be? I must be dreaming. Many times they don't feel anything. They indicate that they're just seeing themselves lifted out of their body, and they are citing, that feels a bit odd. Kind of interesting when you think about it. You're like, wait, you're looking back, you're like, wait a second, I used to be in that body. Whose body is that? I'm feeling a little bit weird. Sometimes they feel like they've stepped out of their body and they're looking down on some corpse and they suddenly realize, wait a second, that's my body. Well, what am I doing outside of my body? And it takes them a moment to get used to that concept. They're like, wait a second, I'm not in my body anymore. What's going on? Am I in a dream right now? Sometimes they'll look at their body and they begin to kind of hover over it and they begin to look down on it and begin to realize that that body is kind of like a used dish rag, has no purpose. They're like, I don't need that thing anymore. Right? Look at me. I'm perfect. I'm great. This is feeling wonderful. And that's what's coming through so often, is that they don't even feel it. And they look back on this used clothing, if you will, and they say, why did I need that? I feel even better than I did before. Sometimes people think they're kind of dreaming and they're not even aware that they've transitioned because it's so smooth, or because they also think that they have some belief that something was supposed to quote unquote happen, or they're supposed to be met by somebody at the pearly gates, or they have some preconceived notion that a certain thing has to happen. They'll ultimately arrive at whatever sphere on the spirit plane, whatever plane matches their vibrational frequency. So that's really a match. It's an energetic match based on their frequency and the energetic frequency of that sphere, and also their energetic frequency that they had while they were here on Earth. They had been accumulating all this spiritual vibration. Essentially, it's the law of attraction in a big format. You're looking at it, think about it from a giant magnet, if you will, and you're the energetic fillings that are getting pulled to that magnet. Whatever energetic frequency you've got, that's where you're getting pulled. For example, maybe that you were a very self-centered person. You were so materialistic. All you cared about was, money, and you didn't care about anybody else. It was me, me, me. I'm going to get ahead in the world, and I don't care about anything else. Maybe you see and experience a new sphere that you perceive as sort of run down, not very pretty, not very nice, kind of dull, and you're like, what's this place? This isn't great. Why am I here? You're like, whatever. Perhaps a spiritually unaware person might see their new world very similar to the way they were when they were in the physical. Perhaps it's just something that they're like, I've been trying to do my best and I'm trying to continue to move on, but I'm just going to allow things to happen. They're not spiritually unique. They're not professing to have any great knowledge, but they did the best they can. Those people often go to a world where it's a sphere that is almost identical to where we are today. It matches everything they see or everything they remember on Earth. They are really connecting with it. But there are some people who are spiritually unaware who initially, because they're not aware of spirit and spirit senses, they may not initially see people around them. They may not initially be open to that concept that there are others. They may not be open to love that's around them. They may not understand the concept of spirituality, so they may not see or hear with their spiritual senses yet. As a result, they're not going to see or hear anybody. They're not even aware that they've transitioned out of the physical into the non-physical. So they're not even aware of their physical death. Sometimes people are so indoctrinated into one particular belief, it leaves them in utter confusion. They, for example, think, I've got to be at the pearly gates. I've got to be met by whoever, St. Peter. I've got to have this happen, or these certain conditions has to happen. That's when I know I'll be in quote unquote heaven. Sometimes it just leaves them in utter confusion. There was this great example of once in the early 1920s, 1930s, I want to say, of a stockbroker, maybe it was 1940s, of a stockbroker who had transitioned in his office of a heart attack. He was so money grubbing, so focused on money, and that's all he cared about. Didn't care about anybody else, just his own money. And he had a heart attack in his office, and he transitioned out of his body. And he said he became aware that he was trying to talk to everybody around him because he didn't think he had transitioned, and he's getting angry that nobody's responding to him. He's yelling. He's like, "Hey, come on. You've got to notice me. I'm over here. Hey, notice me, notice me, notice me." And no one's hearing him. No one's taking any information from him. No one's really starting to understand that. Yet, one thing he did start to notice is he could overhear conversations from the other end of his brokerage firm, and he could then begin to listen in on these investment banking deals that were getting done. And he started having a little bit of fun. He'd hear about these investment banking deals, then he'd go over to his buddies and start whispering the concepts of these investment banking deals to see what would happen. And sure enough, some of these people would get these notions of like, oh, wow, I think XYZ company is going to go public, or XYZ company is going to merge with ABC company. And they somehow have these astonishing revelations of these pending mergers or these pending banking deals, and they'd make oodles of money. The spirit was having so much fun telling his buddies about all of the deals that were going on. He just kept on doing that for the longest time. And at one point, he just kept on doing that even when his buddies had all passed on. He just kind of lingered there in that brokerage firm, that brokerage office, just loving to do the same thing over and over and over again, because he just did not believe that he had transitioned. So he just stuck where he was. He stayed where he was because he enjoyed it. Wasn't any problem with it, but he just kept on doing it. Now, conversely, a spiritually aware person might immediately be aware of their spirit family. They may transition immediately, and they may have greeters. They may immediately see their soul family and be recognized back home. They're welcome back home. It's very much like a spiritual homecoming. Oftentimes, when a person will cross over, they'll be immediately greeted by people that are referred to as greeters. And their sole mission, their sole job is to give a very warm and loving welcome to those people who are new arrivals, who are coming back home. And they're trying to help them and let them know that they have transitioned and try to get them out of that confusion that, yeah, you just transitioned. I'm here to help you. I'm trying to get you more aware of what's going on in your life right now. At that point, when they have been greeted and they have acclimated, they're soon allowed to connect with their spirit family, their family and friends who are in the spirit world at that point, and they're connecting with their family and friends. And that's when there's this beautiful homecoming festival. Some people have referred to it as a homecoming parade, homecoming party, where there's just a celebration that the person has arrived home. It's very much like when a soldier comes home from active duty, and the family just throws him this beautiful homecoming party, and it's just such a warm welcome. It's this feeling of just incredible. Thank you for coming home. We love you so much, and it's just overwhelming. And quite often, what we've seen is that spirits love to give a great amount of detail about what the spirit world is like. And they've given that to us in their automatic writings. They've given that to us in specific mediumship readings. I've had a couple. Quite often, it's very consistent. What we're hearing is that the spirit is letting us know that the spirit world is structured in a way that there are 7 concentric spheres around the earth, if you will. 7 concentric planes or spheres that are nestled one inside the other, and they're basically multiple levels within each sphere, within each plane. And each plane, each level is slightly divided just by vibration. There's no physical demarcation. It's a vibration zone. So one level may have slightly higher vibration than another. Some may have a greatly higher vibration than a lower one. But each sphere is within the next sphere. It's very much like Russian nesting dolls, where you've got one sphere inside of another, and they all fit together in one nice piece. So each successive sphere is essentially within the other larger sphere, and each sphere is creating a different frequency of vibration. So if you want to think about it, you've got, say, level 2 has one level of vibration, level 3 has a higher level of vibration, level 4 has a higher level of vibration than that, and so on and so forth until you get to level 7, which is called the highest level within those 7 main spheres. The different spheres have the same type of energetic vibration. It's very similar to our energy bodies. If you think about our energy bodies as well as our chakras, you know that each chakra has a different energy vibration, and each chakra is connected to one of the 7 energy bodies, and each of our energy bodies has different vibration frequencies and levels. Just so too do the planes and the spheres. They have different energetic vibrational frequencies. And so when a spirit arrives, they'll arrive at that same higher vibration level that matches what they have. But if they're going to get to a higher level vibration that they have not yet reached, they have to be accompanied by a higher level spirit who already has that vibration, because it's something where they have to have the feeling of comfort. It's not that they're not allowed, it's only the feeling that the vibration is so uncomfortable that they can't that they don't feel comfortable being there. It's beyond their comfort zone, literally, if you want to think about it that way. The best example I can give is, imagine you're a person who has been living your entire life in the basement. You get used to the cold, you get used to the dark, you get used, and there's no windows, and you get used to everything that's in there. And then suddenly you're allowed to go walking outside into the bright sunshine. That would be so painful. Your eyes would hurt, the heat would hurt, you'd be really uncomfortable. You're like, oh, this hurts. Ow, pain. I don't want to deal with that. And you'd go running back to the basement because you're just not used to the vibration of the light and the sun and the heat and everything that's out there. So it's very similar. It's not that you're not allowed. It's that the vibration is beyond what you're used to at that point. At some point in the future, as you begin to increase your vibration rate, that's when you become more comfortable with it. That's when you get to a stage where you're able to make it. It's also something that you self-proclaim. Let's say, for example, the vibration is such that the feeling of love is so incredible at such a tangible vibration that you'd never experienced before, that you feel unworthy of being in that vibration of love that is so surpassed anything you've ever known, that you're like, I can't be here. This makes no sense to me. I don't know what to do with it. And that's another reason why spirit, if they're at one level, they can't get past another, because they can't comprehend it. They don't know what's there. It's like being almost like you're in the ocean, going the other direction. You're in the ocean and you're trying to go down levels, and you just feel the pressure starting to press on you, and you're like, oh, this pressure, I can't take it anymore. So you can't go down any farther. It's the same thing. It's just this discomfort. Like I said, it's not that you can't do it. It's not that you're not allowed. It's just that you just can't deal with the frequency that's there. Now, there are spirits who have a specific vibration state who can go into a lower vibration because it's not uncomfortable. They've already been there. They've already experienced it. So those spirits who have that set vibration can certainly go down into a lower sphere without any problems, because they've already got all the higher vibrations, and they've got the ability to know what the spheres are like. Now, that kind of raises the question, what are these 7 spheres that we're talking about, and how do you progress through them? How do spirits migrate through all of these different spheres? Well, the first sphere is referred to often as the Shadowlands. This is a sphere where people have a sense that there is less vibration, less development. It's for spirits who are less developed, and they have a lower sense of love, a lack of love. And as a result of the lack of love, that's where they're experiencing this lack of light, because light comes from love. Love is the source of all light. So if there's a lack of love, if there's a lack of love, then there's a lack of light. Hence the concept of these shadow lands. So it's low vibration is giving off lack of love and lack of light, and that's really what is generating everything. These squalid conditions that people are experiencing in that area, that first level, the Shadowlands, they're really driven by the feeling that it's self-created, because these spirits do not believe that they are worthy of love. They feel they're undeserving of love. They feel, I'm not worthy of this. I'm a person who doesn't deserve love. I'm a person who's done so many bad things. I can't do it. I can't be around people who are so loving. That's just anathema to me. That's just, I feel really uncomfortable around people who are so positive and loving and giving and helpful. I don't want to be around them. And there are a lot of people like that today, just here on Earth. These are people who don't want to be around nice people. These are people who don't want to be around loving, nice, buoyant, positive, joyful people. Those are the people who would rather be around materialistic angry, negative people. Just think about it today. You have the same exact thing. It's no different. Then you move on to the second sphere, and the second sphere is referred to as the sphere of familiarity. It's very similar to Earth in almost every single way, because you're seeing something that is identical in nearly every respect. And it's often one of the reasons why spirits, when they first arrive, they're often confused because they think, wait a second, I haven't gone anywhere. This is still Earth, right? They get confused and they're like, nothing has changed. Why are you? I can't be dead because everything's identical. I mean, you're seeing the same grass, the same buildings, the same houses, the same trees. Everything is virtually identical. You're like, well, this is the same to me. I don't notice anything different. And it's really where the majority of people are going to arrive who just were doing their best. They're not necessarily spiritually minded, but they did what they could. They were trying everything they possibly could. And it's where people typically arrive when they first get to the spirit realms is that second level, the sphere of familiarity. So when you go beyond that, you're then at the third plane or the third sphere, and that's really referred to as the Summerlands. And one of the reasons that's referred to as Summerlands is that it's essentially permanent, perpetual, bright light where you feel that sunshine is coming from every object around you. It's coming from every direction. It's really bright light. The colors are far more vivid than what we could ever imagine here on Earth. The hues are so varied that the colors are beyond anything we've ever experienced or ever known or ever thought about, could ever have any concept of. And it's creating this incredible, dazzling display of broad colors, like a kaleidoscope. What happens is that you're getting the sensation that you're seeing colors, but the colors are even giving off these beautiful sounds, these beautiful music. The notes from every different color matches with the music. So you've got this incredible orchestra of experience that you're seeing, not only the colors, but with the beautiful, unique sounds and music. What we are knowing at this point is many people have come through and said that the types of music, the sounds, the notes, even the instruments that are in the spirit world are beyond anything that we have here on Earth. They're so varied. They're so much more unique and vibrational that it just takes our breath away. And that's why it's so incredible. It feels like everything is really driven by higher vibration, higher frequency. And that's what's so magnificent about that. And the third sphere is really the first plane where you get to that point by devotional path of progress. You're intentionally trying to raise your vibration. If you start, as most people do, they'll start with that second plane, that plane of familiarity. Yet you say, okay, well, I want to progress. I want to increase my vibration. And you intentionally set that notion that you're going to increase your vibration. That's the first path of progress. And that's where you typically start off, where you increase and you progress to the third level. Then, of course, you've got the fourth, fifth, and sixth levels. These are obviously higher vibration levels, also different paths of progress that you're going to get to until finally you get to the seventh level. That's essentially the gateway to what's referred to as the quote-unquote celestial heavens. And spirit enters what's referred to as the celestial heavens that have unlimited spheres by receiving what's called divine love. It's essentially receiving the total unconditional divine love of whatever you would want to refer to it as, the all-knowing spirit, the a God, source, whatever word you want to attach to it, but you're receiving this divine love, you're receiving its essence, you're receiving its substance, and you are completely changed. And it's something that few people ever get to. We'll talk about it in a minute. But I wanted to talk briefly about the 3 different paths of progress that help you get through those 7 different planes. The first path of progress is really the development of the intellect. It's really where you're studying knowledge, you're studying thought and reason, and you're trying to increase your knowledge base. And quite often, it's like you're studying science or medicine or literature, and you're trying to expand your thought process, your reasoning. And you'll typically reside, as you work on that path of progress, through the 2nd, 4th, and 6th levels, the spheres, the planes, through the path of progress. And what's so amazing about the rational thought and the expansion of this is that people will come through with increased levels of reasoning, intellect, science, medicine. They'll learn about this, and then they will transmute that knowledge to spiritually aware people on the earth plane. That's where people get inspiration, and we'll talk about that next episode. But I just want to kind of give you a sense of what's coming. Now, the second path of progress is referred to as the purification of human love. It's essentially very similar to the golden rule, right? Also, it's following the levels 2, 4, and 6, those different spheres, but they're using slightly different sub-levels within those spheres, if you will. So there's not the same exact path. They're similar, but we're working with different sub-layers. So you're working at slightly different movements. And the third path of progress is the path of progress that's focused on divine love. And that's what I was just talking about a second ago. That uses the path of layers 3, 5, and 7, those different spheres. Now, few people, few spirits have ever progressed beyond the 7th sphere going into that celestial heaven, because that's really the home of those who have received that divine love from Source, the Great Spirit, all that is, God, whatever name you want to attach to it, that great being. These are people who are famous spiritual masters, that could be Jesus or Buddha or Muhammad or saints or anybody that you would expect to be a spiritual master. That's where they reside. They've gone beyond level 7 into the celestial heavens. So that's really what is the structure of the entire spirit world, and that's how spirit has been progressing, and that's where what we've been talking about also as the transition into that. So those are some of the things I wanted to really touch on today. So really having a great time talking about that. So I hope you enjoyed this week's episode and you really got a lot of information out of it and what spirit world is really like. If you want more information, definitely go to the show notes on my website, spiritsbesideus.com. You'll get a lot of information about that. And so stay tuned for next week, because next week we're going to continue our conversation about what the spirit world is like, but we're going to get into more detail about what does spirit do in the spirit world. Is there a life review? What are we expecting as spirit progresses, and what does it feel like? So we're going to be talking about some of those topics. So also, let me know what kind of things you'd like to hear about, what topics you'd like me to discuss, what questions you've got. And you can definitely reach out to me. Just go to the website, spiritsbesideus.com, and I can't wait to hear from you and hear what you want to have me talk about what topics you'd like to have on the show. So until next week, this is Chris signing off, and I'm sending you love and light, and I will see you next episode. Bye for now. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Spirits Beside Us. Make sure you head over to the show notes for all the links and information on this week's episode. You can check it out at spiritsbesideus.com. If you love this episode as much as I did, head over to rate and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're looking for a community of spiritual seekers like yourself, make sure you join my Facebook page, Spirits Beside Us Podcast on Facebook. This is Chris signing off, sending you love and light. I can't wait to connect with you again on Wednesday.